Hey guys, I couldn't find a good video on present value formulas, so I decided to make one myself. So this will go along with example 5 in the textbook, which is called savings for college. Okay, so the problem says that Will wants to send his daughter to college in 6 years, and he wants to invest enough money today in a CD to pay her college expenses, which he estimates at $30,000. So how much should he invest now in a CD that has a rate of 2.5% that's compounded quarterly? So the values that I have, T is 6 for 6 years. A is that future value, the $30,000 that I want in that 6 years. The R is going to be the interest rate of 2.5% or 0.025. And then N is how many times it's compounded. It's compounded quarterly, so that's going to be 4 times per year. So N is 4. So the first thing I'll do is using this formula, I'll substitute in those values for those variables. So P is the present value that I'm looking for. A is the $30,000 future value. 1 plus the rate divided by the time, or how many times it's compounded rather, and then how many times it's compounded times the time, which is 6. Okay, so this one I would recommend using a calculator to figure out what that denominator is first by typing that stuff into a calculator, and then divide whatever you get into 30,000. The advice I'm going to give you here is to do one operation in the calculator at a time and make sure you follow the order of operations. Even though you're using a calculator, you still have to follow the order of operations or you won't end up with the right numbers. The second piece of advice I'll give you is anytime you possibly can, leave the answers in the calculator rather than rounding them. Every time you round, you are damaging your final answer, if that makes any sense. So if you round 3 times in the problem, you're going to be further off from the correct answer than somebody who, say, maybe rounded once. Ultimately, you're going to want to try to avoid rounding at all costs because that's going to get you a more accurate answer. So what I did was, the first thing I did was I typed that 0.025 divided by 4 in the calculator and got an answer. And then I added 1. And then after I got that answer, I raised that to the 24th power. Be careful about that too, because if you raise it to the 4 times 6, it'll raise it to the 4th power and then multiply that answer by 6, and that's not what you want. Because again, the calculator is going to follow the order of operations. So to avoid that, just go ahead and know that that's 24 and just raise it to the 24th power. After you do that, you're going to take that number and divide it into 30,000. And you should end up with P being equal to $25,833.30. That's where you should be there. And that's how you use the present value formula.